Reading Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 15, entitled King Peter's Appearance and Coronation, text number 5. Is that right? Iyam cha sudati devi Guna bhusana bhushana Archinama Vararaha Pritameva Varundate Iyam this female child Cha and Sudhati who has very nice teeth. Devi, the goddess of fortune. Guna, by good qualities. Bhushana, ornaments. Bhusana, who beautifies. Archi, Nama, by name. Vara Aruha, very beautiful. Ritum, unto King Prithu. Eva, certainly. Avarundati, being very much attached. Translation. The female has such beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities that she will actually beautify the ornaments she wears. Her name will be Archie. In the future, she will accept King Prithu as her husband. Text number 6. Isa shakshat dari ramsu jata lokari rakshaya iyam satat parali svir anujagye napayini. Translation. In the form of King Prithu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared through a part of his potency to protect the people of the world. The goddess of fortune is the constant companion of the Lord, and therefore she has incarnated partially as Archie to become King Prithu's queen. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that whenever one sees an extraordinary power, he should conclude that a specific partial representation of the Supreme Personality of God is present. There are innumerable such personalities, but not all of them are direct Vishnu Tattva planary expansions of the Lord. Many living entities are classified among the Shakti Tattvas. Such incarnations empowered for specific purposes are known as Shakti Avesh Avatar. King Prithu was such a Shakti Avesh Avatar of the Lord. Similarly, Archie, King Prithu's wife, was a Shakti Avesh Avatar of the goddess of fortune. Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyanandana Sarakya Shakshirvitam Tasmai Shri Chaitanya Saraswati Bhutale Swayam Bhakarami Nidata Sasantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama We don't find very long descriptions about Archie Devi, but we do find these two verses describing her, and it's mentioned that she has very beautiful teeth. Nowadays, most people have crooked teeth, but then with braces it's fixed up. Right? You see all these kids walking around with braces on the teeth because the teeth are not straight. Right? What can be done? That's due to impiety. So the fact that Archie's teeth were very straight is not only referring to that she was beautiful, but it also refers that she was pious and therefore was graced with beauty. Beauty is the result of previous pious activities. Of course, not always that beauty is indicating purity. One might think like that. That's what they thought when Putana came into the village. Everyone thought, oh, she must be a goddess, she's so beautiful, she's so exalted. But Putana, by mystic power, took a beautiful form. And then she cheated everyone. But generally speaking, when good fortune is there, good fortune sometimes also shows in demons, but they cannot keep that good fortune very long. They cannot keep such opulences long. But good fortune stays with the devotees. So therefore, where there's piety, then there's also beauty. So we saw such piety in Archie. Later on in the narration about Prithu Maharaj, we find that when Prithu Maharaj, after having ruled the kingdom, retires, then Archie also retires, and they take Vanaprastha together. It's not that they separate, but they are living a very strict Vanaprastha life. They have 2 huts in the forest, and she is staying in her hut, he's staying in the other one. They're performing austerity. When he goes to take his bath, she quickly cleans the hut things like this. So it's not that they are now enjoying conjugal pastimes when they are in the forest. Because the end of life is for one purpose only. Antanarayana Smriti. The end of life is for remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we must be careful that we don't get too distracted, especially at the end of life. So that part I just jumped ahead now, because that's where we find more described about Archie. And finally we see how Prithu Maharaj returns back to Godhead. A Vaikuntha Vimana plane takes him, and Archie also returns back to Godhead. And then they ascend in their planes, and all the demigods see these planes coming up from below and then going past the heavenly regions until they disappear out of sight. So in this way, they are both glorious personalities. Sometimes we read books that are relating to Srimad-bhagavatam so that we get a deeper understanding about the Bhagavatam. For example, we can read about Sukadeva Goswami, and in the 9th canto of the Srimad-bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Sukadeva had a daughter. So now that's a little bewildering, because Sukadeva was a brahmachari, and so how could he have a daughter? Then Brahma-vaivarta Purana is clarifying. Brahma-vaivarta Purana is saying that Sukadeva stayed in the womb of his mother and stayed there for a long time because he was already self-realized. So he decided not to come out. So he was there for many, many years, and which was troublesome to the mother. But anyway, eventually his father spoke the knowledge of Bhagavatam to him, and then Sukadeva could understand that spiritual life is not only about avoiding Maya, not only about avoiding suffering in the material world, but spiritual life is about tasting the ecstasy and the nectar of serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he realized that, therefore, spiritual life is not just about renunciation. Spiritual life is not just about giving up, but spiritual life is about embracing service to the Supreme Lord. And that was troublesome in the womb. The womb was a perfect place for avoiding material entanglement, which is one part of spiritual life. But it didn't offer much facility for devotional service. So Sukadeva had stayed there all this time in the womb to avoid material entanglement. But when he realized after hearing Bhagavatam that life is not just about avoiding material entanglement, but that it is about embracing devotional service, then he came out of the womb. And then he didn't waste any time. He immediately left home. He didn't even bother to get dressed. He didn't bother to receive any initiation or anything. His father wanted to at least do the Upanayam ceremony, give him the Brahminical initiation, and he didn't care. So it said, then in the Brahma-vaivarta Purana it's mentioned, then Vyasadeva felt very sad that his son had left. So he was so much in separation that by mystic power he created a replica of Sukadeva. And that Sukadeva later had a daughter. That Sukadeva became a household. That you read in the Brahma-vaivarta Purana. So sometimes we read other Puranas or other scriptures and along with the Srimad-bhagavatam to gain more insight into the Srimad-bhagavatam. So here in this particular section of the Bhagavatam, we are discussing about Prithu Maharaj being a Shakti Avesh avatar. And in the Srimad-bhagavatam, which is, it says that after the Srimad-bhagavatam was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Pariksit, Maharaj Pariksit was cursed to die within 7 days by snake bite. So he prepared to leave, and Sukadeva Goswami came and spoke Srimad-bhagavatam in those 7 days. Then after Sukadeva Goswami was finished, then Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Pariksit, came. And she asked her son, she said, "What will I do now? If you leave, then what will I do? The son is supposed to look after the mother. So what will I do now when my son leaves before me? And I have not even, and you have heard all this transcendental knowledge, and I haven't even heard that. At least you should tell me what you've heard." He goes, "Yeah, but how do I do that? I listened for 7 days. Now, I may not have much more time. 7 days are over. This snake is supposed to bite me any moment now. There's no more time left to tell her also." So then he summarized the same knowledge of Srimad-bhagavatam in the Srimad-bhagavatam. Now, so Srimad-bhagavatam therefore is parallel to Srimad-bhagavatam. Therefore, Srimad-bhagavatam is an important work that gives us a lot of insight about the Srimad-bhagavatam, and sometimes fills in a little bit of gaps, little bits of information that we don't have. So in the Srimad-bhagavatam it is described that at one point, yesterday I spoke about Srimad-bhagavatam, now Gopal Kumar was traveling and got the position of Lord Brahma. But before he got that position of Lord Brahma, he came to a planet below Brahmaloka, and which was known as Siddhaloka. So in Siddhaloka, which is above the heavenly planets, there all the living beings have mystic powers. And it said the presiding deity of that particular Siddhaloka was Sanat Kumar, one of the 4 Kumaras. So it said that Sanat Kumar was the leading spiritual personality on that planet. But Sanat Kumar, the 4 Kumaras, are also described as Shakti Avesh avatars. So it said Sanat Kumar was therefore not just a resident of Siddhaloka. Sanat Kumar was actually a Vaikuntha resident. And Sanat Kumar was residing in Vaikuntha, but sometimes manifesting on Siddhaloka. And that was a huge event. It's described when that transcendental personality from Vaikuntha appeared, the spiritual world descended. So everyone in Siddhaloka was just overwhelmed by that personality. We also hear about Srila Prabhupada, actually, something similar to that. It is said that at the time of that last visit that Srila Prabhupada made to the Western world, Prabhupada was not well. But somehow or other, Tamal Krishna Maharaj could see that, Prabhupada was, his body was dwindling and it looked serious. And at one point, Prabhupada was just saying, there's no point in trying to prolong this life now. The body, it's finished. It's finished. And so Tamal Krishna Maharaj could see that Prabhupada was getting into the mood of leaving. So then he made a plan, because Tamal Krishna Maharaj was like that, he would always have a plan. So he made this plan, and the plan was, let's take Prabhupada to the West. And then once he gets to the West and he starts, gets in the preaching field and all the preaching is there, and he gets so enthusiastic, he'll forget about leaving the world. That was the plan. So it was very difficult for Prabhupada to travel. And they made an arrangement. They put some mattress in the back of an ambassador, and Prabhupada was lying on the back seat, and they were driving like that. And it was all troublesome. In the manner he was there, he was wearing dark glasses, couldn't take the light. And during the kirtan, in earlier times, Prabhupada used to play either the gong, right? Sometimes also kirtans. So he used to, in that way, partake in the kirtan while others were leading. But now, that was not the case. Prabhupada was just sitting during the kirtan. But then, at one point, as the kirtan picked up, his fingers started to move. And as his finger moved, all the devotees were dancing and they jumped up to the ceiling practically, as Prabhupada. Anyway, so the mood was very mixed feelings. On the one hand, everyone felt this may be the very last time we see Prabhupada. On the other hand, they were ecstatic to see Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada couldn't go up the stairs. They were carrying up in a palanquin like that. And everyone in the manor was quiet. You know, Prabhupada means rest, quiet. So everyone was tiptoeing. Nobody made any noise. And then the German Sankirtan devotees came, and they were late, and they were noisy. And they were like the biggest of the world in those days. They were the big distributors, right? So they came, right? And then the devotees who were there said, quiet, quiet, Prabhupada is not well. Please be quiet, you know. Prabhupada is resting. Said, oh no, we came to meet Prabhupada. No, Prabhupada is not seeing anybody. Said, no, we are the Sankirtan devotees. Prabhupada will meet us. Right? Just ask him. And they did ask, and Prabhupada said, oh yes, send them up. See. And they went up, and Mamidar is describing that moment. He was one of those devotees. And he came in, and he saw Prabhupada, and it said, when he saw Prabhupada sitting in Vaikuntha. He just saw, and it was as if they could look over the wall. Right? There was a wall, but, you know, and they definitely were not in Vaikuntha, but Prabhupada was. And just by being with Prabhupada, they got a glimpse over the wall into Vaikuntha. So that is like something. That is something out of this world. In this way, the transcendental, empowered personality carries the entire spiritual world. And wherever he is, everything transforms. It's like, we have so many places. One in the world where Prabhupada was, and all these places have been transformed. One place, at one point Prabhupada said that whoever would give $1,000 donation in his book fund and send tickets for himself, his secretary, and whatever entourage was there, that he would go there. So Sridharananda Maharaj did it, and Prabhupada went to Gainesville. Now, I tell you folks, I mean, Gainesville is in the whoops, it's in the sticks, it's out in the middle of nowhere, if you know what I'm talking about, in case you... it's just one of those remote, forgotten, God-forlorn places. That's Gainesville. But somehow or other Prabhupada went there. And now, Gainesville is an amazing place. Because near Gainesville, just outside of Gainesville is Alachua, which is like 1,000 families live there. And in Gainesville itself, they've had like a prasadam distribution program in the university. And everybody who is somebody in Gainesville has had prasadam. One time they went to the mayor to ask for permission for a restaurant. It had been refused by the city council, and then they went to the mayor. And the mayor, as soon as the devotees came in, the mayor said, "Do you have some prasad?" And said, "Yeah, we can arrange that." So brought a big plate and this, that, and they said, while eating, sort of at the end, said, "What was that? What did you want again? What did you want?" I said, "Restaurant." "Oh, okay, yeah, fine." Because he used to take prasadam at university, so he got attached to prasadam. And it's all like that place, Prabhupada blessed it. Prabhupada just blessed that place, and now it's flourishing. So like this, where Prabhupada went, he transformed places. Of course, one of my favorite places, Tompkins Square Park, is transformed. And that tree, and that's not an ordinary tree, that's a desire tree. And I can prove it because I went there once to pray. I thought, like, this time, let me hug the tree. So I stood there hugging the tree, and I thought, now I should pray something. I prayed, right? I thought, what do you pray for? I said, from here, Krishna consciousness spread all over the world, so I should pray for the power to preach. So I was praying for the power to preach. After the prayer, I opened my eyes, turned around, and there's a boy standing under the tree. And he says, "What do I have to do to become a monk like you?" That tree is a desire tree. If you ever go to America, don't forget Tompkins Square Park. And when you go to that tree, you better desire something good, because that's the desire tree. Alright, so the pure devotee, and especially the Shakti avatar, the empowered personality, can transform the entire world into Vaikuntha. He just brings the spiritual world with him. It manifests. We see, then, I remember it was maybe 79 or 80, something like that, when Jagadish Prabhu gave a class on Bhagavatam, and then he quoted, and then he said, Prabhupada is predicted in the Srimad-bhagavatam. And he quoted the verse, Tadvak visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratislokam abadavati abhina manyan tasya somkitani yat srimanti krinanti kayanti sadhava. Which is the verse that, where it is described that the Srimad-bhagavatam can bring about a revolution in the world, and in a misguided, misdirected civilization. And that this Bhagavatam, even if it is imperfectly composed, is heard and sung by men who are thoroughly honest. And Jagadish pointed out, this is what Prabhupada did. Prabhupada in Delhi, he somehow or other he focused on the Bhagavatam. He didn't bring the Bhagavad Gita from India, no. He brought at least the first canto from Bhagavatam, and these 3 parts of the first canto printed and brought them in a trunk. And Prabhupada pointed out that his mission was to put Srimad-bhagavatam in every house of the planet. Right? And that he really came to bring Bhagavatam, and he was translating Bhagavatam in particular. He said, well, he also translated other books, Bhagavad Gita. Yes, but the Bhagavad Gita is the introduction to Srimad-bhagavatam, because there is the Bhagavad Gita, everything is there. It is complete in spiritually. I mean, with the knowledge of the Gita, One can go back to Godhead. There is enough information there. Still, in another sense, the Bhagavad Gita is not complete. How? It is not complete in the sense that the pastimes of Krishna are not described in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Vayam tu navitipyam uttama sloka vikrame yat srimpatam rasa jnanam svadu pade pade. Therefore, Bhagavatam is especially for relishing, because there all the glories of Krishna, his direct pastimes and also his expansions, and all the pastimes of his expansions are described. Therefore, Bhagavatam is the main book. So, yeah, you're saying, but I heard something different, because we heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching in Assam, and as he was preaching in Assam, somehow or other, he was giving a lecture in some place, and during the lecture there was an earth tremor, and the earth tremor caused a flash flood. Suddenly it was like a flash flood, and it's like the whole area was just flooded, but where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was a little higher, so that was not affected by the flood. But then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur began to speak about the Mahapralaya, about the great inundation, and how at the end of the universe water will rise and there will be a great inundation and everything will be destroyed, like this, speaking about that. So, and he says, yes, when the Mahapralaya comes, what will you do? You will grab your valuables. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And you just walk out there carrying these books. He says, but then you are in the water, it's not easy. So it's getting too heavy. You can't keep this any longer. All right. If you have to let something go, let something go. What will you let go? So then you let go of Bhagavad Gita. And so then, one arm Bhagavatam, other arm Chaitanya Charitamrita, you're walking through the water, and then it's like, oh God, I can't carry these books any longer. I have to let something go. All right, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, then let the Bhagavatam go. And then you have the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said, because from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, everything can be restored. And we heard Prabhupada said, the Bhagavad Gita, introductory information, Bhagavatam, graduate, and Chaitanya Charitamrita, postgraduate. So we heard like this. So isn't the Chaitanya Charitamrita more important than the Bhagavatam? So now, the truth of the matter is the Chaitanya Charitamrita is non-different from the Bhagavatam, because it is describing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and philosophy, who is following and teaching the Bhagavatam. That's all he does. He's Bhagavat personified. He's living the Bhagavatam. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the living Bhagavatam. Prabhupada once gave a lecture, and in the lecture, at the end of the lecture, someone asked the question, is Joan of Arc, is she also in the Bhagavatam? And Prabhupada says, Joan of Arc, also in the Bhagavatam? And then he says, yes, she's also in the Bhagavatam, because the lives of saintly personalities is also Bhagavatam. So that makes the Prabhupada Lilamrita also Bhagavatam. You think about that for a moment. So just reading about Prabhupada and Prabhupada Lilamrita is Bhagavatam. It is as potent as the Bhagavatam. All the biographies about Prabhupada are not different from Bhagavatam in that sense, because it is the description about the person Bhagavat. So all the conclusions of the Bhagavatam are found there in the behavior of Srila Prabhupada. So in that way, Bhagavatam is again revealed there. Anyway, so Chaitanya Charitamrita is a further expansion of the Bhagavatam, And of course it also adds the special mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which we very much need in this age because we're all very weak. No willpower at all. So it is very hard to do anything. Therefore, we need a lot of mercy to compensate for the acute lack of willpower that we have. And the deep impiety that is there. In the Satyayug, the best get the human form of life. Only the most qualified living beings get the human form of life. All others in the animal species. With our level of consciousness, which we have now, we would not have made it to the human form in Satyayug. We would have had a tail and 4 legs and a snout, right? Or some other varieties thereof. That's the situation. Right? But gradually, as the yugas pass on, there is more facility. And in the age of Kali, even those who are like practically like 2-legged animals still get the human form of life. So that's how it is. But of course, human form of life is an opportunity to take up spiritual life, but because we are so weak in determination, although we know we should, we just don't get it together. That is the situation. So we need a lot of mercy. So in that sense, Chaitanya Charitamrita is especially important with that mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes and qualities and teachings. But otherwise, it's not different from Bhagavatam, and the essence is Bhagavatam. The main evidence quoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his preaching is again and again Bhagavatam. Also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, when he quotes from many scriptures and provides evidence for the Siddhanta he's presenting. But the foremost evidence, and by far quoted the most as evidence, is Srimad-bhagavatam. The same we find in Rupa Goswami's writing. You can look in the back of the Nectar of Devotion, and then there's a list given of various books quoted. And at the end, when you look at the list, you see Bhagavad Gita so many times, this Samhita so many times, that scripture so many times, and then you see Bhagavatam, and it's a long list. Main evidence that Rupa Goswami provides is the Bhagavatam. Therefore, when Jiva Goswami writes the Satsandarbhas, the first Sandarbha is known as the Tattva Sandarbha. And the Tattva Sandarbha is basically dedicated to one point, to establish that the Bhagavatam is bona fide. And he builds his case. He builds his case on what is it now? Which scripture? Hold on. Forgot. Anyway, he builds his case basically on one particular verse from the Upanishads, which establishes that the Puranas, the Itihasas are Panchamam Veda, are the 5th Veda, and as such, fully bona fide Vedic knowledge. Then Jiva Goswami, after he's established that Bhagavatam is therefore completely bona fide authority. Then he starts quoting left and right from the Bhagavatam to explain the whole philosophy of basically of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. That's basically the Satsandarbhas. So that is it. So Jiva Goswami did the work by establishing that Bhagavatam indeed is the evidence. So that's it. Our movement is based on the Bhagavatam. Our message is the Bhagavatam. That's what we're teaching. And Bhagavad Gita is summarized as the overview of essential points from the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam gets into much more detail. For example, in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, we have the Uddhava Gita. And because Uddhava was chosen as the messenger, twice Uddhava was chosen as the messenger. There is one scripture called Uddhava Sandesh, also written by Rupa Goswami, and it describes how Krishna is on the roof of his palace, looking in the direction of Vrindavan, and is thinking, I should send a messenger. And he's really carefully thinking, who to send, who to send, who to send. Shall I send this one? No. It is good, but maybe not enough, maybe. Shall I send that one? No, maybe not enough. And then after, finally, he thinks, Uddhava. Why didn't I think of that before? Uddhava is perfect. Uddhava, he looks like me. He's my cousin. He looks a lot like me, and he sports the same dhoti and things like I do. I mean, you have to, from a little bit of a distance, you might easily mistake him for me. So whoever sees Uddhava will remember me. So that is good. And Uddhava is the disciple of Brihaspati, who is the spiritual master of the demigods. Therefore, Uddhava is extremely learned. Brihad Bhagavatamrita again describes how in Dwarka, Krishna is going daily to the royal assembly house, which he took from Indra, and how there they are sitting. And it says that then Krishna is seated on a throne, and to his right side is Vasudeva. On the left side is Satyaki, his military commander. And then next to Vasudeva on the right is Ugrasena. But because Ugrasena is formally the ruling king, therefore the throne of Ugrasena is a little bit forward. So there's this whole formation, and is sitting like in a formal way, and everyone has the appropriate seat according to their position, etiquette, and so on. That's going on in Dwarka. And but then there's Uddhava, and Uddhava is especially intimate with Krishna. And Uddhava and Krishna, they have a secret language, because Uddhava is so learned in Sanskrit, and not only that, in verses, that what Uddhava does, he quotes a little from here, and he quotes a little from there, and no one knows what Uddhava is talking about, but Krishna understands. So they have this whole exchange in a code language, while everyone is sitting there formally, and because they have that intimacy, that they are very close, right? And then at the end, after the assembly is over, then Krishna goes to his own quarters. And then everyone follows Krishna to his quarters, and they're all there, and then at one point, it gets time for Krishna to be left alone. So some announcement is made that now it's time to give Krishna some privacy, some time to rest. Right? So everyone leaves, except Uddhava. Because when it's announced that it's time to leave, then everyone thinks it's time to go. But Uddhava doesn't think that applies to him. That's for ordinary people, not for me. I'm close to Krishna, you know what I mean? I don't have to, I can stay. And Uddhava stays and massages Krishna's neck. So Uddhava is very intimate, very close. So Uddhava is chosen as the messenger by Krishna. And he sends him to Vrindavan to pacify the gopis who have their experience of separation. So that's the first time that Uddhava is chosen as a messenger. But then there's a second time that Uddhava is chosen as a messenger, later, when Krishna was winding up his pastimes, and before he was about to leave this world, Krishna instructed Uddhava. And then Uddhava was asking many questions, and he asked many, many detailed questions. And then Krishna speaks the answer to these questions. And because Uddhava was very learned, in one sense, he asked many more detailed questions that Arjuna never asked. Arjuna didn't ask that many questions, but Uddhava asked many more questions. So in one sense, the Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto goes into much more detail than the Bhagavad Gita. And one finds many answers there to many many technical points and so on. So the Uddhava Gita is actually very important. And Krishna instructed Uddhava, because Krishna wanted Uddhava to stay on the planet after his disappearance and go to Badrik Ashram, which is one place where there were many devotees, but Krishna never went there. Therefore, he wanted Uddhava to go there and instruct all those people that were there and fine-tune their bhakti. Because bhakti may be found in Vedic culture. Oh yes, there was the Karma Kanda, the Jnana Kanda, and the Upasana Kanda. So Vedic tradition, different people were following different Vedic paths. The Karma Kanda, the path of basically ritualistic ceremonies to try and create auspiciousness in this world. A lemon on the mirror with some chilies, things like this, to create auspiciousness in the world. Yes, Karma Kanda, and so many other rituals. Then there is the Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas, which is asking basically about what is the meaning of life, inquiring, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, inquiring into Brahman, inquiring into what is real substance. Neti, not this, not this, not this, but this. Not all these material things. Look, no, this is not spiritual. No, that is not spiritual. No, that is not spiritual. This is spiritual. Yes. Neti, trying to determine what is spirit and what is matter. But then the Upasana Kanda is describing worship of superior personalities. Now there are plenty of prayers in the Upasana Kanda that deal with demigod worship, but only some are dealing with the worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And all those sections of the Vedas that deal with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yes, they are all basically dealing with bhakti. Because whenever we deal with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we deal with bhakti. In Vaikuntha, Lord Narayan is worshipped. And again, going to the Srimad-bhagavatam, which gives us a lot of background information, I told you, we can read what's going on in Vaikuntha. And it says there that we have read in the Bhagavatam that in Vaikuntha everyone has 4 arms and a body similar to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but that the Supreme Lord has that golden streak on the chest, right, of like where it shows that Lakshmi is residing there. That's his indication, that is the Lord. So you can recognize him. But everyone otherwise looks similar. But Srimad-bhagavatam described that's not all. What is also going on is that everyone has mystic power, and everyone takes by mystic power other bodies. So some are becoming sages, so they take all kinds of forms. Some are even for the pleasure of Krishna, sometimes taking animal forms, it says. They take so many forms for the pleasure of Krishna, although originally they have these 4-armed forms. So that's also going on in Vaikuntha. So it's interesting, a little extra background information we get there. Anyway, and that's all bhakti. That is all an expression of bhakti. But then it is said that in Vaikuntha, the bhakti is not expressed fully in 5 rasas. In Vaikuntha it says there are only 2.5 rasas. Namely, Santaras, in neutrality, Dasyara, servitorship, and Gauravasaka. Gauravasaka means friendship covered by awe and reverence. So some sense of friendship, but still covered by awe and reverence. Still always remembering that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. So that's as far as it goes in Vaikuntha. So once we come to Golok, then we get, of course, the full-fledged 5 rasas manifest. And Yasoda is just tying Krishna up, forgetting that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so on. So it's different. Anyway, so therefore, Srimad-bhagavatam is fine-tuning all the bhakti. Although in the Upasana Kanda, some are worshipping demigods and some are worshipping Lord Vishnu. But even of all those who worship Lord Vishnu, right, which is rare in India, so much worship is going on. I see so many pujas, I see a Surya puja going on, I see a Vishwakarma puja going on where people are worshipping their bicycles. Yeah. Quick puja to the bicycles. Even some brahmacharis in Mayapur sneak it in. No one's watching. What are you doing there? Nothing. You're not doing pujas to the demigods, are you? No. Then why you were worshipping your bicycle? So, it's different than in the West, you know. People fall down to demigod worship. Different. Yeah, it's a little different. No, we don't worship Vishwakarma, it's not required. Not required. We can offer respect to Vishwakarma, but worship, worship reserved for Krishna. Only for Krishna. Respects to all the demigods, yes, but worship for Krishna. So Bhagavatam is pointing that out. Kichit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. Only Kichit keval. Keval, everybody knows in India. Keval. Oh yes, keval. Keval means only. That's quite clear. Keval. Okay, yeah, keval. Keval means only. And Kichit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. Anyone can translate that, so even, full absorption in the worship of Vasudeva. So that is Bhagavatam. Therefore it is Bhagavatam that is fine-tuning all the bhakti that exists in so many different varieties of forms, in so many different ways. Yes, it is bhakti that gives us the very essence. The Bhagavatam gives us the essence of all Vedic literature, the essence of bhakti. It gives us, therefore, pure devotional service. That is the topic of Srimad-bhagavatam. And that is our movement. And therefore, how important is this Srimad-bhagavatam? It is everything. It is the literary incarnation of Krishna. And then at the end, after reading the whole Bhagavatam, there is the closing verse of the Bhagavatam. I'll just pull out the phone 1 second, just read it to you. 1 moment. Boom. There we go. Bhagavatam, Srimad-bhagavatam, 12th canto. Open her up, go to the end. There you go. Verse 23. Good on you. Text. There you go. Nama sankirtanam yasya sarva papa panasanam pranama dukkha samanas tam namami harim param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hare, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. That's the conclusion. The end. Then the titles come on the screen and everything. Bhagavatam is over. Right? It's finished. So it ends actually glorifying Sankirtan. And that is the final conclusion. Just see. And that is our movement. Every day we discuss Bhagavatam and we chant Hare Krishna, which is our foremost process. And that is Bhagavatam. Just see. Just see. So in this way, we are appreciating how Srila Prabhupada was a Shakti Avesh avatar who came for this mission to give the Bhagavatam to the entire world. And that therefore, that wherever he appeared, he brought the spiritual world with him. No. And he called places New Mayapur, New Vrindavan. And he pointed out, yes, these places are no different. Because when the pure devotee desires so, then these places just manifest. They manifest. And then they are not different. Of course, also different, because Vrindavan is always there. Even when the whole universe gets destroyed, Vrindavan still remains. That doesn't disappear. Kasi even remains. Also doesn't disappear. Of course, the rickshaws will no longer be there. That will be gone. By the mercy of Krishna. But Vrindavan will still be there. And in this way, we are seeing how great pure devotees can even invoke the presence of Vrindavan. Oh yes. And of course the deities, they also bring Vaikuntha with them. Therefore, the temple is not an ordinary place. And when you go on the altar, you're in the spiritual world. That's basically what's happening. You step on that altar, you're in the spiritual world. Of course, we don't belong there. That's why we have to behave according to strict rules and regulations. Otherwise, we can't be there. So how amazing is the potency of the Shakti Avesh avatar. And Prithu Maharaj was such an amazing Shakti Avesh avatar. And then we see that Archie was a Shakti Avesh avatar of the goddess of fortune. Srimati Radharani expands, Krishna expands, Krishna becomes Mahavishnu, Radharani becomes Mahalakshmi. From Mahavishnu, so many incarnations appear, and from Mahalakshmi, all the consorts of the Lord also appear. So, when Yatada Divikara Vishesha Yogas, when Sadashiva, who is Vishnu Tattva, becomes the glance of Mahavishnu, Saiksata, who looks at Pradama, the potential of the material energy, and then impregnates the material energy with his glance. It is Sadashiva who became that glance. And when Sadashiva touches the Prakriti, then Sadashiva transforms into the demigod Shiva. And it says, Ksira Tatadadi Vikara Vishesha Yoga, there is a Vikara, a transformation. And at that point, there is a different tattva, Shiva tattva. And at that point, Lakshmi, who is the eternal constant of Narayan, also becomes a unique tattva and is there with the Lord as Parvati. In this way, wherever there is the Lord, there is his concert. And as the Lord expands, so does Srimati Radharani expand in so many forms. Interesting. So many interesting things, all in the Bhagavatam and the corollary literatures. And so we end our discussion this morning. Any questions or comments? Dr. G.
Madam,
What did I say?
do you want to tell us something about Madhavendra today?
I don't know. Madhavendra Puri knew all these conclusions of the Bhagavatam. We fully realized that.
On the topic of the Srimad-bhagavatam, a summary of Srimad-bhagavatam, we don't explicitly see the pastimes of Gopa in the Srimad-bhagavatam.
No.
How did Parikshit Maharaj get the inspiration to summarize the Bhagavatam?
It is mentioned in the beginning of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita that this was previously spoken and also told to Parikshit Maharaj as a supplement. So it was an ancient scripture that this is previously spoken, and then it was quickly added on as a bonus. So you got a bonus, and then told his mother the bonus.
Thank you for a nice class, Maharaj. So we'll speak how the Bhagavatam concludes with the Sankirtan movement. But then sometimes, especially in Melbourne, we do so many services which are not directly related to Sankirtan.
Okay.
So how to keep that vision?
So I spoke about Sankirtan was the final recommendation in the Bhagavatam, and quoted the verse, and then there are so many other services in this movement which are not directly a Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada would refer to a poster of the Indian railways, and you saw a close-up, you saw the locomotive, and then a close-up of the wheel of the locomotive. And it said the entire railways is working to keep the wheels turning. That's what the poster said. Prabhupada said, in the same way, everyone in this movement is working for one purpose, to spread the chant of Hare Krishna. Everything we do in this movement is related to that, and is ultimately serving that purpose. So in that way, everything in this movement is ultimately serving Sankirtan. I remember lectures in the early 80s about, and when you brush your teeth, that is Sankirtan. So that your breath is fresh when you are preaching the glories of Srila Prabhupada's books. And when you're resting at night, that is Sankirtan, so that you're rejuvenated to go out the next day. And stuff like this. Everything was Sankirtan. And it is true. That is actually the complete understanding. Everything is serving that one purpose. So even when we are worshipping the deities, that is also Sankirtan. How is that also Sankirtan? Ultimately, we are invoking, by worshipping of the deities, the mercy of the Lord, who can manifest the entire spiritual world, and we can absorb that. And as we are performing our sadhana, the vacuum that is in our heart fills up. The emptiness in our heart fills up, and as it's filling up, it begins to overflow. Because real Sankirtan is the overflow. It has to be the overflow of the heart. Then you can really do Sankirtan. When the heart is overflowing, like in absorption in Krishna, then you can just pour it out, and it just starts to just overflows out of your mouth. You don't even know what you're saying. It's just coming out. Krishna, Krishna, holy name, Bhagavatam, everything, Priya Bhagavatam Rita, and so much more, and all these things you can. So the heart has to be full. So it's all Sankirtan. You had a question.
In the Srimad-bhagavatam Rita, Dr. Kumar is given 3 benedictions. One of those was having the right mentality to get the fruit of the mantra. And of course he went back to Godhead and had such an intimate relationship with whatever the fruit you might consider that to be. So what can you say from seeing Dr. Kumar's qualities and his mentality that helped him and therefore also us that we should cultivate?
Gopakumar was submissive, and Gopakumar was sincerely trying to execute the order of his spiritual master. And he had a desire. He had a desire to attain the goal of life. That desire was there. So these things combined, that he had his desire, and that then he was submissive to his spiritual master. It's also described in Srimad-bhagavatam Rita how on one occasion Gopakumar meets his spiritual master, and the spiritual master is sort of quite ecstatic at the time, and the spiritual master gives an instruction, and it's not really clear. I mean, he explains, but it sort of seems like half an instruction, and then he's already gone. And Gopakumar is not sure what he should be doing, but he tries to do the best he can according to what he understands. And even although it may not be 100% what the spiritual master intended, still because he's sincerely trying to fulfill the desire as good as he understands, he gets the mercy, and his understanding grows and grows and grows, and he makes advancement. So it is said that it is by the faithful chanting of the mantra that Gopakumar attained everything. Because that was the primary instruction of the spiritual master, to chant the mantra. And he chanted very faithfully, and as a result, everything was attained. So these are some of the main points why Gopakumar was successful. And then, as you say, he got benedictions. Now, benedictions one can get for different reasons. There may be causeless mercy. A great saintly personality may just decide to give the mercy to someone, and suddenly that person is transformed. Or one can attract the mercy. And because we can't wait for some saintly person to walk by, because there are not that many nowadays, to just throw some mercy our way. We have to do something, find saintly persons, find them out, and then serve them in a way that they become inclined towards us. Do something so that we get some special attention, special mercy. Then, and Gopakumar, then one might get benedictions. So Gopakumar managed to get benedictions. That is the, he got blessings. It's like we depend very much on the power of blessings. Now in India, people are aware of the power of blessings more than in the West. So people always want blessings, 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 blessings. So it's a fact, we depend on the power of blessings. And that is the Vedic approach, looking for blessings. Western approach is we don't need blessings, we'll fix it ourselves. We'll make a machine, somehow. We'll do some genetic engineering, we'll fix it up, we need the power of blessing. Other question? Yes.
Now you spoke about studying the corollaries to Srimad-bhagavatam, deepen our understanding. But then Prabhupada mentions often that there's 4 books that if you studied, you wouldn't need to read anything else.
Yes. I also said if you read Bhagavad Gita, it's enough to go back to Godhead. Absolutely. If you have only a Bhagavad Gita. In Durban, in South Africa, we have an interesting personality. He is the deputy mayor of Durban. And during the apartheid era, he was part of the revolutionary party that was protesting against the government. And he got jailed, and he had solitary confinement. And they asked him if he wanted a particular book. He could have one book. So he said the Bhagavad Gita. So somehow or other the one he got was Prabhupada's Gita. So he had solitary confinement with Prabhupada's Gita. And that is all he had, alone in a jail cell with Prabhupada's Gita. You can understand what it did to him, right? You can never forget it. So he's still a devotee at heart, completely. And he comes every year to the Rath Yatra, and in the inauguration he tells the story. He always tells the story, because it's like, so you can see where it's heading. That Bhagavad Gita, at the end of his life, he may also remember the story and Bhagavad Gita, go back to Godhead. Just, what a blessing. So, yes, there are 4 major books. I call it like this. I have an analogy. I said Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Srimad-bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita are like rice, dal and sabji. And there are so many other books nowadays, and they're like chutney. So, you want some chutney every once in a while, little chutney, just rice, dal, sabji every day, little chutney also you want. If you eat only chutney, it will not be unhealthy, that's for sure. Staple diet has to be rice, dal and sabji. Staple diet, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar, Devotion, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these are our main readings. But sometimes little chutney, like when I give a little chutney in the lecture from the Brahma-bhagavata Purana about Sukadeva Goswami and how Vyasadeva created a copy of a clone, really, of Sukadeva, and that one got married and had a daughter, so that the parents could feel our son is with us, They created a clone, basically. And so that's interesting. Some cloning, early cloning in the Brahma-bhagavata Purana. It's interesting chutney. Thing is in the Bhagavatam, but little chutney would be one. And it gives us also a new taste, and it gives us a deeper understanding of the Bhagavatam, that we don't depend on that. Even without telling, even without, we can attain full perfection. Even without chutney.
I have one more question, and you were mentioning how actually Chaitanya Charitamrita is enough to revive the Srimad-bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, because not looking for Bhagavatam. But in our movement, we don't have so many classes on the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, I was asking what's the reason?
Huh?
What is the reason behind it?
I don't know. I always give classes on the Chaitanya Charitamrita, actually. Srila Prabhupada did in New York in 1966. But Prabhupada instituted this, the Bhagavatam lecture every day in the morning at one point. And in the beginning years, in 1966, Prabhupada was lecturing according to his own inspiration. So he would give a whole series of lectures every day on the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But later, in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada began to formalize the morning program. And then he sort of set standards for the whole world in LA. So then it became as it is now, more or less. And but we should study the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Definitely. Then we hear that it's the postgraduate study, and that you should first read Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-bhagavatam, and then you can read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Therefore, some devotees consider the Chaitanya Charitamrita radioactive. You can't read it because you haven't finished the Bhagavatam. It's stuck in the 4th canto. 4 years ago. So they never make it to Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it's forbidden. You'll be shot if you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Have you finished the Bhagavatam? No? Okay, well maybe in my next life I'll read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's not the idea, We can read it even now, but we should understand we're going to miss something. Because the Chaitanya Charitamrita built on the Bhagavatam, therefore it already assumes that certain things are known. So if you read it without having read the Bhagavatam, you might miss a few things here and there. But it's still full of mercy, and you can still read it a bit every once in a while, Although your main staple reading is, of course, the Bhagavatam, because you're stuck in the 4th canto, you still got to do the 8 more cantos, so every day you're doing your pages of the Bhagavatam without fail, right? Isn't it? That you do every day, of course. And that's without question, isn't it? There's no discussion about that. But then, additional, you just sneak in a few pages of the CC. Because it's very nice to read about Lord Chaitanya, because you see, let me give an example. Here is Bhima. He is stronger than 10,000 elephants. mind you. I mean, not even one elephant, 10,000 elephants. That's stronger than Spider-Man. Just that you know. So, I mean, I once saw on a plane how Spider-Man stopped a train that was going off the track, right? He stopped it. And there would be nothing for Bhima. 10,000 elephants. Just stop the train like that. Bhima can do, he's Bhima. Bhishma Dev, you know, hundreds of arrows, he's lying there on the beds of arrows and he's still able to speak. I tell you, one arrow and it's hard to speak. You can sort of whisper, ambulance. I mean, you take you off to the hospital, you're done. One arrow is enough. And there's Bhishma. These personalities, they're like almost superhuman. Priyavrata, he rides around in the sky, and he doesn't like it that the sun doesn't shine, so he arranges his own chariot so that the sun starts shining. I mean, these personalities in Bhagavatam are superhuman, you know? And then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they're much more like us, closer to home, 500 years ago, you know, just people from this particular era. So Chaitanya Charitamrita is sometimes really closer to home. And then it gets supernatural. Oh, you gotta read it. Even if you haven't finished Bhagavatam, just a little here, little there. Even if you miss a few things, still it will be great. Please read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Have you read it? You read it, huh? Oh, he's reading it.
I already finished it.
You finished it? Oh my God. You finished it? Yes.
You were mentioning about the transformation towards Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
So the transformation happens at the stage of Sadashiva or when he...
Okay, let me explain. Shiva Tattva. Shiva Tattva is described in two books. In the Srimad-bhagavatam by Sanatana Goswami and in the Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. And there it is described, basically this, that there are, between the material and the spiritual world is the Viraja river that separates Devidam from Haridam. Then it says on the spiritual side of the Viraja, there is a Shiva Loka, the abode of Sadashiva. On the material side of the Viraja is also an abode of Shiva. There is Mount Kailash, and there the demigod Shiva is residing, Rudra. Now it said Sadashiva, he is an expansion of Mahavishnu, and still in the Vishnu Tattva category. Now there is the day of Brahma and the night of Brahma. During the night of Brahma, the material world is not manifest. The three modes of material nature are in equilibrium and exist in the state of pradana, which means the state of potential. So the material world is there in potential, but it's not manifest. Modes of material nature not manifest. Then, when it is time for the day of Brahma to begin, then Ecstatic, then Lord Mahavishnu glances upon the pradana. Pradana becomes activated, three modes of material nature activated, and it becomes the Mahatattva. That glance then at the same time impregnates the Prakriti with all the jivas. So the jivas are put in. Now it is Lord Shiva in the form of Sadashiva who's carrying the jivas. The jivas are entering at the end of at the time of dissolution in the body of Mahavishnu. Then it is Sadashiva who carries the living beings and impregnates them into the Mahatattva. And as he does so, as he touches there the Prakriti, the transformation takes place. Yatadati Vikara Vishtesa Yogadev Brahma Samhita, which then explains the transformation. And then Jiva Goswami says, it is like the original light of a lamp, an oil lamp, and the glass becomes covered by soot, by the black soot, and the full light can no longer come through. So as that transformation takes place, and as milk turns into yogurt, and as Sada Shiva becomes the demigod Shiva, Rudra, in the various Rudra forms in the material world, at that time it is like the lamp covered by soot, and not the full potency of Sada Shiva is manifest anymore. Then there's a discussion in the conversations between Srila Prabhupada and his god brother Sridhar Maharaj, and they are discussing Shiva Tattva. And they're both discussing, and they're discussing how Sada Shiva is the perfect pure devotee, Vaishnava Yata Shambhu, and how as Rudra sometimes you have the Shiva who's protecting the demons and benedicting the demons. So in this way we have some collection of information on Shiva Tattva drawn from Prabhupada's books, other books. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.